Are you a master yet of the four agreements? In my previous four episodes, I broke down Don Miguel Ruiz's book, The Four Agreements. Are you a master of the four agreements by now? No, I'm not either. So today, a practical way to live the four agreements. Welcome to Every Day a New Thought. I'm Thor Challgren. This is the last show I'm doing in my series on Don Miguel Ruiz's book, The Four Agreements. The first show, episode 48, was on the first agreement, which is be impeccable with your word. The second, episode number 49, on the second agreement, don't take anything personally. The third agreement, don't make assumptions, was covered in episode number 50. And yesterday's episode, number 51, I talked about the fourth agreement, which is do your best. So that's where you take action on the first three. But if you listen to this whole series, and I hope you have, you're at the point where you're thinking, okay, how do I put this into practice? How do I make this something that I do every day? How do you live the four agreements? Well, that's what I'm going to cover in today's episode. This is my suggestion on how you can implement this on a daily basis. I'm going to share with you one practical way to put this into a conscious practice. But first, before you start, Don Miguel Ruiz has a suggestion. He says, just do your best to honor these agreements. That's what yesterday's was about. And, he talks about your best is going to vary day to day. So as long as you're always trying to do your best, you're going to be fine. He also makes a suggestion for an agreement that covers the other one. You start by putting something in writing where you cement it in. You say, I choose to honor the four agreements. So if you write that in your journal, your diary, whatever, write it down somewhere where you have now said, this is my commitment. So how do you do it? Here's my suggestion. In the beginning, focus on one agreement per day, and for 4 days, rotate through all four. So for instance, if you start on Monday, I'm just going to pick that date, make your focus that day being impeccable with your word. Maybe you're on the lookout for instances where you use your word against yourself. If you want to know what that means, go back and listen to that episode. Then on Tuesday, you're going to look for instances where maybe you take things personally. Your goal that day is to find one instance where you took something personally. If you find more than one, great. Write them down. Keep track of them. You want to know what commonalities do they share? Is there something where it's happening consistently in a way that you can address it? So that's your first one. What commonalities do they share? Where were instances where I took things personally? Find at least one. Then on Wednesday, you're going to avoid making assumptions. Look for one instance where maybe you went into a situation assuming one thing about someone else or that situation, or even yourself. So that day, look for one instance where you made an assumption. Then on Thursday, that's the do your best day. Today, you're going to look back at the first 3 days and ask one simple question. Of those three, what did I learn? And what's one thing I can improve upon based on what I noticed? So if you look back at one of the days and you go, yeah, you know what, that day I made an assumption about what that person said or thought, and it led to this. And really what I should have done in that moment was this. So really Thursday is your check-in day where do your best is go back and look at the way that you lived the first 3 days and ask, what could I have done better? So that's it. That's your 4 days. Now, what do you do the rest of the week? My suggestion, one thing is you could start again with the first three, but maybe instead of looking for just one thing that day, maybe you take like a whole hour and you live the agreement for that 1 hour. So if it's don't take things personally and you're in a situation where you're with a bunch of people, just be conscious that for that hour, you're not taking it personally. Now, when you go through this again, maybe you amp it up even more where you say, I'm going to live this agreement all morning. Or maybe you get to like the sort of Jedi master level where you're like, I'm going to do this all day. Think of this as a muscle. The more that you use it, the more reps that you you take on, the stronger you get. So that's my recap of the 4 agreements. If you liked this series and you'd like to see more, please let me know. This was my first instance where I did a series where I covered a book in multiple episodes. It's kind of fun for me. I liked it. You can always message me on Instagram. I'm at Thor Challgren. That's in the show notes. And you can also find me on my website, which is thorchallgren.com. Until tomorrow, thank you so much for listening.